So a few months ago, I was reading this business book, and the concept of the book was very easy applied to other areas of life. And the book was actually called The Infinite Game. And so I want to introduce you to The Infinite Game, and this is the Rise version. So that one was specifically driven towards business, which business is an infinite game, and in a minute I'll explain what that is. But for our purposes, we're going to call it the Rise Infinite Game of Expansion. And the concept here is that there's 12 areas of life, and I'll go through those in the coming lessons. I'm not going to go through all of them right now, but 6 of them are what I call the self-leadership areas of expansion, and then there's 6 others that are influencing others, right, leading others. And the challenge for most of us men is, right, we live in a society, Western philosophy is this idea of you do a task, you get a reward. You do a task, you get a reward. You do a task, you get a reward. And this idea for so many of us is, I should get to a point where I've done enough work that life just becomes easy. I told my wife I loved her when we got married. She should just know. Or, right, I did enough work for us to be intimate today. I shouldn't have to do any more, and we should be intimate tomorrow or in 3 days or whatever. But the truth is, we want to constantly be growing and expanding, ideally. Maybe some of us don't at times. But for our purposes, this purpose of growing into kings, into the men we're meant to be, it's this ongoing path of progression. And so when we take this concept of an infinite game, the idea here is we want to win consistently at things in life that don't end. And so you take this idea of parenting, okay? Parenting doesn't end next week. It doesn't end when your youngest kid is 18. It keeps going. It might change some, but you're still playing that game. You're still needed there, right? You look at your marriage. You don't just invest once and then it's like, oh, I won marriage and I never have to do anything again. I never have to invest anymore. Same thing with our health, whether that's emotional, spiritual, mental, intellectual, physical, right? Things atrophy. And so, I've been in a place where I was able to run Spartan races and feel fine. And I weighed the weight I wanted to weigh, and I was able to, I ate healthy for several years straight and kind of kicked that sugar addiction. But then I didn't maintain it. So I was winning the game, but the game never ended. And we have to keep playing these games at high levels. So over the course of the next 12 days, I'll introduce these different areas of expansion. And so 2 of them you've already been introduced to. The king mentality, right, our mental health, and then peak emotional state. And so we'll revisit those ones day 11 and 12 a little bit. So today, when you go to the next page, you're going to be introduced to the first more fully, and I'm going to guide a process that helps you get in tune with this. But this is called hunting down the higher self. And so a while back I learned, right, we have our physical body, the place where I was learning these concepts, they called it, we have our emotional body, we have our mental body, and then we have our spiritual body, or our higher self. And the way that they said this works is our higher self, it's not always constantly present because the subconscious mind is trying to allow the higher self to have more thought process, more availability. The challenge is so often we're stuck in kind of like zombie mode. We're not using conscious thought to connect to ourselves spiritually. Now, sometimes a lot of people think of this as God connection, and it can be, but this is more in my mind connecting to purpose, okay? My higher self, my higher identity, my higher purpose, my higher goals, my higher dreams, those all come with conscious thought, conscious effort. And so our conscious mind learns things quickly, and it will just start to repeat them. That's where habits become habits. It frees up space for our conscious mind to be thinking, And if we allow it, we want our conscious mind to connect to our higher self. So that's the first one we're going to kind of explore. And as I'm introducing you guys over the next 12 days, what you'll see is you're already acquainted with these and probably invested in some of them to some degree. What we want to do is get to a place where we've broken through the baggage, we've released the emotional, negative emotional ties and the limiting beliefs that keep us from progressing. And as I mentioned, part of the goal of this 6-week experience is that at the end of it, you have clarity of what you need to keep working through and how to do that, and then a focus on taking the steps of progression to get to the next level. And so in time, if you continue to join us here, the idea will be that we'll take 3 months of life at a time. Doesn't mean we won't have goals further out in the future, but we'll go, okay, what are the steps for the next 3 months? And there's a really cool process that I'll guide on probably in a couple weeks about how we obtain that and stay with it. And so with where I am right now, I'm locked in, I'm focused, and I feel good. And it doesn't require a ton of extra work. It's just the day in and day out of winning those games. Am I playing the game well with my wife? And right, there's kind of subset games in there. Am I playing the emotional game? Am I playing the sexual game? Am I playing the spiritual game? And am I being a good partner? Right? Am I helping out with the finances? That part of our marriage, right? Parenting game. These different areas are ones that we want to expand on. So I'd love to hear your thoughts of this concept of the infinite game and recognizing that you're involved in numerous areas of life, that you don't just win once and you're done. So we want to develop an infinite mindset, an infinite perspective where we can see the long-term strategy. So, for example, some of you have to rebuild trust in your marriage, or you need to create safety, and maybe you want to heal your sexual intimacy. We have to start thinking with not how do I get into bed this weekend, but how do I win in a way where we can go to bed and have sex often and she wants to be there, for example, right? Or you take a look at parenting. Maybe there's present day struggles and all you're focusing on is how do I not blow up this week, right? What we want to start to look at is what is our long-term aim with our children. Yeah, we need to stop blowing up, but there's more to it than that. What is the strategies we're going to use to start to get the outcome we want in the future and then maintain it? So I hope this is making sense. This concept of the infinite game really resonated with me because for so long I was striving to win and not have to do it anymore. I did this in business, right? When can I just make the $1 million or the 5 million and just be on a beach in Costa Rica? And I realized even if that came true, I wouldn't do that because there's no growth there. There's no expansion. And recognizing how our society especially is geared towards this. Do something, get a reward. And I study a little bit of kind of Eastern philosophy, and it's more about enjoying the journey and the being part of life, right? Who am I being with those I'm around? And that's what we're after here. So I'm excited for you to be introduced to the infinite game and the 12 different areas of expansion. And the way that this will continue on after these next 2 weeks is we'll continue with evolutions, where each week we're focusing on one of those areas, right? Week 1 was the king mentality. Week 2 was peak emotional state. In week 5, we'll start another evolution in one of these areas of the infinite game. And we start to get a system in place of progression. So I'm excited you guys are here. I'm excited to be on this journey with you, and I hope this is helpful for you. And love any feedback you've got thus far.